Today is Saturday, January 12th, 2019, and this is A Sister Be Going Places, the Travel Advice Podcast. I'm your host, Tyrone Griffin, and with my friend, the worldly traveled Vicky Young, we'll try to answer your travel-related questions and give you tips on how to make vacations easier, more enjoyable, and budget-friendly. With that, as always, we're having difficulties. I'm just waiting for my co-host to get in here. And we adding her now. Look at this. Look at this. Is it gonna work? Let me tell you guys something. Hey,
Vicky.
Hello.
How
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good. Okay. Let's look at the screen.
I can't
figure out if I'm from near you.
Do I need to turn my volume down?
Turn your
Or?
Turn your volume down.
Yeah.
Because I'm.
Okay, can you
Okay,
still
can you
hear
still
me?
hear me?
Barely, but I'd be okay if I need to have it that low. It's
With
okay.
headphones in?
I'm okay.
Okay, because
Okay, because I'm in the feedback still.
But
But let's go ahead and get to this. Today's topic,
and
anybody listening live, you got any questions? Just
hit them up
get them up in Facebook Live and we'll answer them there.
Let me wait.
Let me wave it.
Send
Send here.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, here's
Here's my situation.
Say
Say I
find
find
that
that I'm being investigated by the FBI,
and
and I just want to get out of it.
I know, right?
We're gonna get trouble for that.
Anyway, I want to get out there.
We've been planning,
And
you've been helping.
And the
The
question
question
now
now
is
is
dealing
with Air Force.
So,
So,
being the
being the world traveler that you are,
how do I
deal
with air?
with airports?
Man, I tell you, with airports, it's one of those things where most people consider airports a black hole because they're just so stressful.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta rush to pack, you gotta rush to get to the airport, and once you get to the airport, you gotta park, and then you gotta get to the airport, you gotta get through security, then you gotta get to your terminal, then you gotta get to your gate. So it's like one of those things that you have to just change your mindset when it comes to airports. That's what I had to do. I had to just make it a part of my overall trip. Instead of looking at it as a separate entity, I had to look at it as this is part of my vacation. Once I leave the house, I'm officially on vacation, and the airport is just part of the experience. So what I had to do is just try to figure out how to make it much easier for me. And that means once I need to leave the house earlier so I can get to the airport on time in the allotted time I'm supposed to. Once I get there, I got to get through security. So I applied for TSA pre-check. So I have a credit card that reimbursed me for that. So I applied for that, which helps me get through security much more quicker than I would if I had to stand in a regular line.
Okay, wait a minute. I've seen
that TSA pre-check.
Yes.
And can you kind of explain what that does for?
It allows you, what you have to do, you have to go through with the government and officially apply for it. TSA pre-check as well as global entry. And what it does, it allows you, you go to the airport, you answer a series of questions, they take your fingerprints and all of that information. And once you are approved, then they send you like a number that you attach to your profile. And every time you book a ticket on a particular airline, they attach that number to your itinerary. And once you get to the airport, your boarding pass will have TSA pre-check on it. And you get to go through a line and you don't have to take your shoes off. You don't have to take your coat off. I've actually gone through with a hat on, and it just speeds up the process because you've gone through that early detection prior to getting to the airport.
So you actually have to go to the airport to do it?
Yes, I had to go to the airport. I had to go online. I scheduled an appointment, and on the day of my appointment, I went to the airport, and once I got to the airport, it only took a few minutes. They asked me a series of questions. They took my fingerprints and they took the payment and they processed it. I had to wait maybe I think 3 to 4 weeks before I actually got an approval. And once I got an approval, my number came, and then I was eligible to go through that TSA pre-check line.
Okay.
Okay.
Some of the people in the group said
There's also something called Clear.
Yes, there is Clear. There's another one now that Delta has specifically, where you go through, and as you're checking into the terminal, as you're checking into the kiosk, it's a face recognition device where they recognize your face. You have to go through the process. I don't know all the details yet, but because Delta is my airline of choice, I'm going to look into it. It's a face recognition. It skips. You don't have to go through that entire process. And I was told that you go through a separate line when it goes to security if you have that. I got to get all the details about it. But yeah, Clear is definitely another option that you can take.
And you said Delta has one that's specific to Delta.
Yes.
Wow.
My concern with that is that all of a sudden every airline comes up with their own.
That is true. But you just look at it as I have TSA pre-checks which allow me to, or even if you have Clear, you have access to the overall airlines. But if you have your airline of choice have specific things that will make your travel easier, why not?
What about
internationally? Are they all accepted?
Well, internationally, leaving the country, yes, because it's still TSA pre-check. However, when you're coming back into the U.S., there is global entry, which is once you get global entry, apply for it and you're approved for it. It includes TSA pre-check, so you don't have to apply for both. I have Mobile Pass. And Mobile Pass I downloaded the app to my cell phone, and it allows you to answer how you get to the airport through security. When you're coming back through customs, you have to go into a kiosk, and it asks you questions about whether or not you're bringing in, livestock or a bunch of other questions. I think it's like a series of 5 questions. You answer those questions via the app. And once you answer those questions, within 2 hours from getting to the actual security customs area, once you answer those and submit it will send you a barcode on your phone. And then once you get to the actual terminal, customs, you show them that barcode, scan it, and you get through. Actually, I get through quicker than the people do at global entry. Because it's still so new, nobody really knows anything about it.
Okay, now remember that one again?
It's Mobile Pass. It's an app you download to your phone, and you have to scan your passport into it and then answer questions, and it's awesome. So the people that don't have global entry, please download Mobile Pass if you travel internationally.
Okay.
Right.
So get to the airport. There's rules for international versus domestic travel. But how early you have to get there?
For international travel, they say be at the airport at least 2 hours prior to your flight. And a lot of time, I think that is for anytime you have any issues. That's going through security, making sure you check your bag and all that other stuff, that you're not rushing, because you have to check in. I always check in online, but it's 2 hours. With domestic, I think I've gotten there, honestly, less than an hour prior, because I always check in on time for domestic flights because I have TSA pre-check. But before that, I would have to get there early.
Besides everybody everywhere knows you. On a side note, we got the Super Bowl coming down here in about 2 weeks. Imagine TSA can work.
Oh God, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be.
That's bad. It's unfortunate.
So anyway, let me ask you this. You probably don't have experience with it, but we have elderly.
Okay.
Travelers. I know I had some person that took care for a couple of months ago, and I checked them at the curb, and I hit the bell, and got them in the wheelchair. And said, this man, it was a man.
Okay.
And I take care of the brother. How far
How
can
far can they go
with the
wheelchair
and
and taking the person and getting them to the gate?
They can actually, honestly, they have people assisting the people in wheelchairs all the way to the gate. Now, I don't know whether or not they shift to a different person once they get to security, but I know that a wheelchair person who needs a wheelchair can be assisted all the way up into the gate.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And I used to tell people take those insure bars
with them.
in case you get
delayed.
Okay.
People that are
diabetic or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Take them. Okay. So
we
got
we got
two to check in.
And you got
all those, how much liquid you can bring in.
Yep.
And you can't bring water with you.
But you can
bring Subway sandwich.
You can also bring a water bottle, because they encourage people to bring water bottles now, because they've incorporated fountains within the terminals that you can fill up your water bottles. I know you can't take bottle, but you can buy bottles of water in the airport at some of the vendors there.
Yeah,
for
like $8.
Yeah. Or if they have water, they have depending on how long the flight is, you can get bottled waters on some of the flights. Because I know with Delta flights, they at some point they hand out, if it's overnight, over 3-4 hour flights, they hand out bottled waters throughout the night to keep everybody hydrated.
That's so nice.
I know.
But let's be clear. When you go to the airport, they know you coming.
I wish it was that easy. I just decided to just stop making it so hard for myself. I include it in my whole vacation plan, because once I get there, if I get there within the 2.5 hour time that's allowed if I'm traveling out of the country, I always check into the club. I have this thing for airport lounges. And because if I'm traveling overnight, at least in the club, I can get a decent meal. I can get some really good food, a glass of wine prior to getting on the flight. Because a lot of the airline food, I can't really eat because of my allergies. So I just check into a club, plug in, get a glass of wine, and I normally just start to just kind of finalize my list of things to do. I always, contact my sister to see if she still got a copy of my passport, because I give her a copy. So if something happens to me while I'm there, she knows who I am. She have that documentation, or if I need to get it, she have it. Contacted my neighbors, said, FYI, I'm going out of the country. Can you make sure you check on my house? Saying bye to my mom. So I kind of finalize stuff like that. And then I get something to eat while I'm in the lounge and chill for a minute. And then now I'm ready to get on the plane and get ready to go to sleep so I can wake up the next day at my destination.
Good segue. Good plug. Before you say you get a copy of your passport. Now,
yes.
Are we talking a Xerox or are we talking you actually ordered a?
I actually give her, I scan it.
Okay.
I scan it and I usually text it to her so she can have a copy, just in case something happens to me while I'm out of the country, and they know how to, forward some information on to the counselor over there in that country, so they can be able to find me or help me get an additional passport because I lost mine, or anything can happen.
Did you get in trouble?
Exactly.
Let's talk about the clubs in the airport.
Okay.
Now, I
know Delta has the most famous.
Yeah.
But what is
the benefit of being in the club?
The benefit of being in the club, to me, especially they're mainly for people that have long layovers. Mm-hmm. If you have an extended layover within a couple of hours or more, or if you get to the airport and you're traveling and you want to get there early and you got time to go in it's just it's a place where you can go and get out of the hustle and bustle of the actual airport itself, and you can chill. It's like two different worlds. It's like you go inside these doors and everything just calms down. And you go in, you have these big, fluffy, comfortable chairs you sit in, and you can just charge up your phone. You can have drinks, you can have dinner, you can chill and just kind of relax versus actually sitting in the airport. And I know my last trip, I had a 3-hour layover, and I ended up going in the club. It was still early, so I set my alarm to wake me up at 2 hours, and I fell asleep. I took a nap, and I woke up, and my stuff was still there. My phone was still charged in the charger. So it's just one of those things that it's a preference. A lot of people don't know anything about them, because I still have friends I have a friend that traveled just recently, and she sent me a text, and she was like, thank you for recommending, this lounge, because it just saved me so much time where I could just chill.
Now, the club costs extra to be a member, right?
What was that again? I'm sorry.
The club costs extra.
Yes, it does. It costs extra. And a lot of airlines, you have to have a boarding pass saying that you're flying out somewhere. And I know with Delta, they actually had it up until the beginning of this year, where as long as you had a boarding pass on one of their flights, you can get into the club at $50 cost. But they changed it. Now you have to have a credit card that says that one of the perks of the card is that you can get into the club either for $29 or for free. So
you just can't walk into the club.
No, you can't.
You used to be able to.
If you had a boarding pass.
Right.
But now you gotta have like the Sky Miles club card.
Exactly. You have to have the card now, because they took away that privilege because the clubs are so crowded. One of my favorite Delta clubs is the one that's in JFK, and it is a beautiful club. But last time I went, it was extremely crowded. So I think they're trying to control the crowd from the club, so the people that have the membership can actually get in them without having to stand around and wait for a seat to open to actually sit down.
Now, your membership, again, okay, that's when you go to the club now, you pay what, $29 to go in.
Yes.
But you also pay something else for the membership, right?
No, it's a perk to have the card that I have. It's part of the card perks.
You got that black card, right?
No. No, I don't.
my bad.
Okay, no problem.
But now you can bring in guests still, right?
Yes, I can bring up to 2 guests at the $29 cost with me. And there are some cards that allow you to get. I know they have a Black Sky Miles Delta card, Amex card that allows the card holder to get in at no cost, but then bring in 2 guests for $29. But then there's the Platinum card out there that allows you to get in any club, Delta, Amex Centurion, Priority Pass, all those clubs at no cost, and then you can bring in 2 guests at no cost.
So do the airports have like multiple clubs?
Yes, depending on the airline. So if you have Delta has its own series of clubs, American Airlines have theirs, United Airlines have theirs. Then you have Priority Pass, which is separate from an airline, but they have their series of clubs throughout the different airlines in the U.S. and international.
Okay. So I know you told me the story where you went to a club and you had an overnight layover. And you got to the club, and you stayed there till like midnight when they closed?
No, I had to work. I was going out of the country, and I knew I had to go to a JFK. And because I love JFK clubs, I always try to go early. So what I would do is I would leave early that morning, and I would go to JFK and just work. I would just log in and just work up until the time for my flight. And, I have lunch, I have dinner, and then after 5, I just start drinking. I'll have a couple of glasses of wine, and then I'm ready to get on the flight. And a lot of clubs have showers that you can freshen up. And say if you in between flights, say if you're flying overnight and you get to your destination and you have a layover, so you can just go into one of the clubs, freshen up, take a shower, change clothes. So when you get to your final destination, you could just hit the ground running, go check in your bags, and just keep moving because you've already showered while you're at one of the clubs.
You just be trying to maximize your time.
Yes, that's the whole key. Is just try to make it comfortable and easy so you can get as much done with the time that you have, especially if you like delayed somewhere. I actually enjoy going just to experience the different clubs.
So it sounds like that club is worth it. If you get the right credit card.
Yes.
And we need to have a whole show on credit card.
Yes.
You should get your credit card.
Yep. Gotta get it. Because now they're offering it to where, and I actually I have access to Delta, and I purchased the Priority Pass because I found that when I go outside of the country that they don't take Delta, the membership for Delta card does not work over there. So when it happens, because when I was in Italy last, I went to go in and check into Delta Sky Club, and they were like, no, we can't take that card. I was like, but it's a Delta Sky Miles card. It was like, no, you have to have the Amex. I said, well, it is an Amex. It was like, you need the gold Amex. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, where is the Priority Pass Club? And they were like, it's upstairs, blah, blah, blah. But when I went up there, it was a brand new club. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was huge. And I was like, well, this is a better deal for me right here because it's a brand new spot. So I was able to go in. They had breakfast bar, and then they switched it over to a lunch bar. And it was just amazing. So I purchased that on my own, just so if I'm out of the country and don't have access to the Delta Sky clubs, I still can get in the club.
That's cool.
Yes. I found that out when I tried to get in.
That's a fight.
I guess I didn't have the right card.
Well, you know, I mean, you get to the airport, you're funky. What you got? You're like, oh, I'm taking a raw hot check. And they're like, you're the first thing.
Yep.
I'm black. I'm sorry. Got all off the top. Okay. So it sounds like the clubs are a pretty good deal, but it starts with having the right credit card.
Yes, it starts with having. Now, I will say, a friend of mine that just recently traveled, she traveled to Alaska on business, and she, with them, they allowed her to just go pay $50 and go into the club with her boarding pass. So there are still airlines out there. Delta doesn't do it, but there are still other airlines that allow you to, to pay buy a one-day pass to get in, because she was able to do it for Alaskan Airline. And she was like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me this sooner? I was like, I did tell you. You probably just didn't listen.
Okay. I'm thinking, wasn't that priority? That was the one.
Priority Pass. Yes, you can actually get a membership for a year for like $99. And that covers, you still have to pay to get into clubs, but it's only $27. No, it went up to $32. It's $32 to get into the clubs, but they're here in Atlanta. They're all domestic and they're all international, and they're pretty much everywhere.
So it sounds like that's a better deal than nothing.
Yes.
I want
that. I mean, it's just a matter of preference. And once I was like, you know what? Let me just go. This is a good investment for me. So it was worth it.
Okay. So again, the club is a good deal. I think another story. And then you went to a hotel. They closed. Like at midnight. And you went from.
That wasn't me. I'm sure it can happen, but that hasn't happened to me. Now there are clubs
You're
out
gonna call me out
Right here.
Huh?
right here.
You're
You're gonna call me out right here.
Now there are clubs that stay open all night, 24 hours a day.
Right.
And you get stuck at the airport and you can't get to a hotel, or you don't, because traveling can be expensive.
Right.
And everybody can't afford to just say, I'm just going to leave and just go get a hotel. So if you have the option to go into the lounge, yes, you don't have beds there, but you have a comfortable place where you can stretch out. There is food throughout, and it's covered for 24 hours. To me, that is worth the $99 a year, even if you only used it one time and you had that situation.
So you well, I think
was
they
they left on the club,
went to a
went to a
hotel
hotel
just to
just to
sleep.
sleep.
Got up the
Got up
next
next morning and flight.
So they
So they literally
ate
ate at the club, got full,
went to the
went to the
hotel,
hotel,
and
and you know,
but
okay.
So last
So
week
lastly, we got about time flies. 4 minutes left.
when you
As
far as
the
the check-in
at the gate,
is there
is there any tips
to make
to make your check-in easier?
I'm talking
I like doing carry-on because I like to hit the ground running. And so I make sure that, and I'm just a control freak, because I know when you get to the gate, if you have, just make sure you stay within the requirements for the liquids. And then a lot of times when I pack my carry-on bag, I pack my personal items in plastic bags. I get the freezer lock bag with the zip lock on them. I pack those in plastic bags, because if they have to go through my luggage, they don't change gloves every time they go in someone's luggage. So they could be touching dirty clothes from one passenger and touching clean clothes from another. So if I pack everything in plastic bags, I know it's bad. My friends laugh at me.
you know about
So what I do, I pack all my personal items in bags. So if they have to go through my luggage, which they have, they're touching the plastic bags and not my actual clothing. So I do that just to make sure when I get to my destination, I don't have to try to clean my clothes because they've been touching. Yes. So I just say, make sure that you just strategically plan when it comes to packing, especially if you're doing carry-on. Check-on is a different thing, but if you carry on, just make sure that and then sometimes you can't control what they pick up on. And just go through the process, because there's nothing you can do. You can't really stop them. You just go through the process, and if there's nothing to hide, you'll be okay.
I'm just trying to explain to the doctor. How I guess that it was the people at the airport. Doctors like that was the clean version of all the jokes right here. But all kidding aside, that is a pretty good tip.
Yes, that's what I do. And my friends talk about me. They're like, that is crazy. And another thing that I do is I carry, like, in my carry-on bag on the plane, I have like a little pouch bag that I keep hand sanitizer, sanitizing wipes, lip balm. I keep that kind of stuff in it. So when I get on the plane, my headsets, I don't have to keep going in and out of my bag to get stuff disturbing the passengers. I have that in a little bag that I just take out, and I put my bag in the bin, and I have that. And when I get to my seat, I'm wiping stuff down, because I'm like, I'm gonna be on this plane for a while. I wipe everything down. So, the germs are still there because of that recirculated air, but it helps me to think that I've cleaned up around myself to make things better for me on the flight.
I ain't laughing. Yeah, I am laughing. Because I know you. All kidding aside, you think about you're in a metal can.
Yes.
For like now.
Yes.
And you're breathing air that come out of your mouth, nose,
yes.
Other places.
And I actually carry a surgical mask with me. That's what I sleep in, because I have really bad allergies, which I'm suffering from now. So if I don't do that, that recirculated air for 9 hours, I will get to my destination and I will be so sick. So I sleep in that. I look crazy, yes, but when I get to my destination, I feel good and I don't feel like I need to sleep a day just to feel better.
Looking
Looking like Michael Jackson.
Yes, I get it.
Well,
Vicky, this has been good. Time flies.
Yes.
Time flies. So we're going to end this, but I want to remind everybody
that this
that this show is on Facebook Live,
via
via iTunes, YouTube,
Blog
Talk Radio,
and
and Spotify.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay?
Vicky,
Vicky, as always,
thank
thank you so much. We close it off again.
Good stuff.
You know,
Thank you.
if people knew the plan that we're going to do, it's crazy.
But
Glenn and for myself, for the World Traveler, Vicky,
thank you
thank you so much, everybody. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks
Bye.
again. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.